Citizens of the free world, I am of a man cop, defender of justice, defender of the people, defender of the earth. Today I took my stand and presented before City Council of Houston, Texas. The topic that I discussed was bridging the gap between police and citizens. And I want you to listen to a citizen by the name of Willie Smith. His son is missing. No one knows whether or not if his son is alive or deceased. And what you are going to hear, what I heard before the city council, is an outcry, a plea from a citizen who is trying to get any kind of support and information, not to the investigation, but to the well-being or any kind of response, communication with the leaders of Houston regarding his son who has vanished. And I have to tell you, as I sat there listening to this man crying out for help in the best way he could without being too emotional, this was heart-wrenching. Citizens of the free world, almost unbelievable that what he tried to do over a month of trying to get some kind of response, help, on the whereabouts of his son and the runaround he got, and then after you hear him, you would hear my response to his plea and the need for change within the police agencies across Houston, Texas, and around this country. Listen and I will return.
I drove here from Franklin, Louisiana, along with my wife, Angela Smith. We have a son who's been missing in the city of Houston since January the 12th, 2018, a year and 45 days today. I have reached out to the chief of police through email, assistant chief Dobbins through emails, and I still have no answers of the whereabouts of my son or what happened. And I want to share some information that I went out digging myself. My son was missing in Houston area since January 12th, 2018. A couple of days after my son's disappearance, one of the individuals last seen my son put out a text message that my son was dead. He stated my son got in a black Ford Focus with an individual and was shot, and the car put off, and my son is dead. I gave this text message to the missing person detective Flores and robbery detective Kostler. I was also told my son's car may have been involved in a robbery. That night he went missing. Robbery detective Kostler contacted me to sign forms to process my son's car in agreement to see for the robbery, and I wasn't okay with that because I wanted to find my son. Weeks passed by, and I wasn't getting any information or callbacks from the detective Flores or Sergeant Hamilton nor Kostler with the robbery department. At the beginning of February, we noticed transactions being made of my son's credit card. Immediately, I called the Sergeant Hamilton on around January 30th and February 1st was the transaction made. Missing person detective Flores called me and said they will look into it. Sergeant Hamilton told me they had to get authorization from the bank and possibly get a judge to sign warrants to get the footage. I called for days to see if they had looked at the surveillance footage because it may have been my son. Sergeant Hamilton told me the bank had to give authorization to see who was using that card. After weeks passed, a homicide investigator, Sullivan, called me and said homicide was taking over the case because something most likely had happened to my son. I asked him, had they looked at the surveillance footage? He had no idea what I was talking about when I asked him about the surveillance footage about my son's credit card being used, which got me upset because I gave everything to the missing person department and the robbery department to see what happened to my son that night. He didn't have anything on his credit card. I did email all the bank information to Sullivan again. Sullivan told me he went to the location where the card was being used at to look at the coverage. After so many days had passed by, the footage had been recorded, so they couldn't get no footage of it. I put up missing flyers all over Houston, and I got flyers that my son was in the Air Force. He got out. His card was being used at an S-Mart for 610 Southwest. On the location my son's credit card had been used at. I went over there to speak to the guy, asked him about putting up flyers. He told me, he let me put up one, and I noticed it was an apartment complex that the officer had told me to put up flyers. It was Wilcox apartment. When I went over to the Wilcox apartment to put up flyers and question the managers over there, I was told that...
Your time has expired. You want to finish your thought
yes,
briefly?
Ma'am, please.
Thank you.
If I can.
Sure.
Okay.
Take.
I went to put up the flyers, and I was told... I asked the lady about, she will sit down, talk to the manager over there, sit down and say, let's have a talk about what happened. I told her about the night my son was missing. They said he was involved in a robbery, and he met with a guy by the name of William. And she was like, do you know the guy named William? I said, I don't know who his name, but it was an article came out by the name of William Chavez had been maybe robbed that night or shot that night. The lady told me William Chavez used to live in that apartment. William Chavez had moved away in August. William Chavez drove a black Ford Focus, which witnesses said from the police that they saw my son get inside a black Ford Focus. So I asked the lady, she said he had to move to Austin in August. They got rid of the car. I went back to the Houston PD and gave all his information again. And all they keep telling me every day is an active case. We cannot give you any information. It's an active case. I got so many questions asking, and nothing is getting answered.
Yes, sir, I understand. It's extraordinarily difficult for you. Councilmember Starter.
Thank you. So, can I ask a question? Have you met with anyone from HPD since? I hear a lot of phone calls going back and forth.
Yeah, I've made numerous trips. I've sit down. When it first started off, they were sitting down telling me, we're looking into this, we're looking into that. They told me that the supposed robbery was a lie, that the individual they could have arrested, the only thing they could arrest him on was falsifying information. And this was back in.
So are they saying that your son may have been involved in as a suspect?
At first they said the car was involved in a robbery, and that was my question to them. So if my son's car was involved in a robbery, it was 3 other guys with my son that night. Why haven't you brought those guys in?
And I'm not here to judge that part of it. All I'm saying is I want to understand, because whether he's a victim or a suspect, it doesn't matter. The fact is you're trying to find your son.
Exactly, that's it.
And whether, it doesn't matter, that part. And so I guess my question is, Madam Chair, Mayor Pro Tem, if we could, is there someone here from HPD that could, to get...
Well, there is, but also,
you have more details?
This is a high-profile investigation,
Oh, it is?
and it's been very active since it began.
Really?
And
Sorry.
And we know that they speak with Mr. Smith on a weekly basis, and the chief has spoken to him,
right now.
and so they're on top of it, and they do have communication.
That's the information. And I apologize. I just stepped in, so I didn't get the benefit of review. They give us notes, and I apologize. Please hang in there for your son's sake.
I'm doing all I can do. I will hang in there.
Yeah.
It's just my problem is the communication. That we might call, but the answer is active investigation. We can't give you no answers right now. I've been hearing that for 7 months now.
I understand, but I look at the notes now, and I know the parties you're dealing with. They're very credible. I know it's hard for you to believe that at this moment, but I see the officers and the chiefs that are involved in your investigation, and I have full confidence in these individuals. So I'm still saying, please, hang in there. Thank you.
One moment, please. Councilmember Laster.
Mr. Smith, I'm sorry that you had to come to see us today, and I'm sorry about the last year. It must be terribly hard for you and your family. Mayor, is there any one live person from the police department that we can direct Mr. Smith to as he is here today?
Yes, there's Alexandra Magnum that's here. Sergeant, right over there.
Okay. Sir, I only have the memo that the other council members have in anticipation of your visit. I can't call into question what's in the memo because I don't have enough information. I'm sure that your experience is true as you have related it to us. Mayor, is there any way that we can at least give this family some sort of information about what they may know up to this date?
Well, as I said, they've been in contact. The chief, in fact, has been in contact, as has Assistant Chief Dobbins. And
Mr. Smith is shaking his head.
Excuse me,
have you had a chance to?
You asked me a question. They're giving him as much information as they possibly can without jeopardizing the investigation.
Well, I understand that, Mayor, but I don't understand that.
One of the guys that was involved that night, he's back home in Franklin, where we're from. They called him over the phone and questioned him.
Mr. Smith, we don't have the time to go through all the details. I'm asking whether we can provide Mr. Smith with a direct contact with someone in the higher echelons of the Houston Police Department while he is here to give him an update about where they are on this case so he can go home with some sense of direction and some sense of guidance as to the next step. If that's
My
possible.
suggestion is that he speak with the sergeant and see what can go on from there. But as I said, he has been in communication with Chief Acevedo and Assistant Chief Dobbins.
Well, Mayor, the gentleman's standing right in front of us, and he's saying he's not talked to Chief Acevedo
email,
except for email.
So.
But that's a widely disparate from an email and having a conversation.
Very good.
So, let's put this gentleman with a live person in the command staff today. I would appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And now you will hear my live response to the outcry of that citizen in regards to his missing son here in the city of Houston. Listen and I will return.
To the absence of the mayor, to the city councils, ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you because this is a prime example of why I'm here, of this gentleman's outcry. I'm a former police officer, okay? And I served 12 years. I stand before you because I can boldly state that the reason why I'm not a police officer is for one reason only. It's because I stand up and I serve citizens of the community just like that gentleman. There's absolutely no reason for that citizen to go for months, phone calls and emails of an absent human being, his son or his daughter, whoever it may be. And that citizen is getting the runaround. I am one who served the police department, the Houston Police Department, with my blood on that badge. And I served honorably. And there's not one officer that has done or sacrificed as much as I have in the police department. It's on record. It's documented. I've arrested some of the most dangerous criminals ever in this city. Everything is documented. And I spoke out against some things that should have been spoken in a better professional way, maybe, about what happened in Dallas when another citizen was innocently killed. Okay? And so my stand here is because I want to bridge a gap. There needs to be a change, ladies and gentlemen of the council, of the interaction and the communications between police and citizens. And the way it's going, as we have just seen, is a complete disaster. And it is a complete shame, because there is no way that should be happening. And there are certain protocols or certain procedures that should be in place within all agencies to ensure that an incident just as that man who does not even know where his son is, ladies and gentlemen, he doesn't know where his son is. And that can be resolved through certain steps. And I'm just about over my time. And so there are ways that we can better bridge the gap. And I can help do that. And I intend to do that in any way I can.
Thank you. One moment, please. Councilmember Kubash.
Thank you for coming. What would be your suggestion? How should we, you understand our position as city council members. We have no authority to instruct or direct the police to do anything. All that power lies in the hands of the mayor. So what do you suggest that, now we have a voice, a vote, and a seat at the table. Yeah. We can holler, we can scream, we can vote, but when it comes to actually giving direction to a city employee, we're prohibited under the charter. So what will you do, or what do you suggest be done to bridge this gap, as you say?
Well, the very first step is you had to allow police officers, such as myself, who was a police officer, the ability to speak out when they see illegal or corruption within the department. Because it's there in every department. But officers will not speak out because they would face what I've had faced. I'm no longer a police officer because I spoke out, and I've always spoken out against actions, procedures, and behaviors that does not represent the Houston Police Department and the citizens of Houston. That's the first step.
Well, that interests me, because it sounds like you need to be on council here with me. Because, I ran on the premises that I was an outsider, put me on the inside, and I'll tell you.
Yes, sir.
Because I do speak out. In fact, I have to go to bed at night and sleep with myself.
Absolutely.
And when I think about some of the things that I didn't speak out about, it upsets me. I'd rather speak out and at least give the people an opportunity to know what's going on. Remember this, that the people will never be upset with me for failing. They'll only be upset with me for not trying. And we must try. And I know that Councilmember Bradford, when he was here, a former chief of police, he said we need more community policing. And he said that our model needed to change. But we need to know how to bridge that gap. And I'm very interested in hearing how to bridge that.
I'm here to help.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now, what does it take? We are not talking about an individual who happened to take a field trip or vacation or decided to just go out and disappear on his own. We're not talking about an animal who wandered off, and even if it was, the response and the reaction probably would have been different. But we are talking about a human being who has been missing now for over a year. And this father is getting the runaround. How can you explain this kind of behavior. How can one sleep at night, get up in the morning, face your own son, knowing that his son is missing and you would want help for your son who would be missing? This is part of the problem. Bridging the gap between police and the citizens starts first with allowing, as I have stated, giving police officers across the country the freedom and the ability, without retaliation, without isolation, without being mistreated, ridiculed, bullied, and targeted as I have been for 12 years, and every year got worse. When I first spoke out and took defense of a suspect who was mistreated the first year on patrol on my own, I will never forget. I will withhold much of my response, my comments, until further investigation on my own. And perhaps now it is my prayer that this father and his family will get answers needed to ensure that the investigation will have closure. I am disgusted. Over out.